Hello everybody. Hey guys, welcome back to Donica and Shelby Read. I'm Donica.
I'm Shelby.
As you can tell, we are in a super spooky and silly mood. In today's video, we're going to be going over our TBR for the last part of September and all of October. We're just going to be reading everything spooky that we can think of.
Spooky, ghoulish wonder.
This is my favorite time of the year, and truly, I read spooky books throughout the entire year, but when it's like about to be October, I go hard. I go all in. I love being scared.
Me too.
What's wrong with us? Okay, we're just gonna go right into it. Like I told Shelby, we're not gonna do like a full rundown of each book, just kind of what drew us to it, or kind of like what we know about it. But we'll do a full wrap up of all of our spooky reads at the end of October. I'm gonna just start off with two books that I don't have on hand with me, and the first one's The Last House on Needless Street. And man, the buzz around this book was super loud because that's how I found it. And
what? How have I not seen this one yet?
It was released last year in the UK. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with UK books, but they do sometimes get a early release, or it might have been released earlier this year, but they get released before, and then we kind of have to wait for them to be released. So I'm not quite sure if it's been released yet, but I did order a copy of the UK edition because I just liked the cover. The US edition is like this almost like spooky street with like a little cat, and then the UK edition is like a spooky forest, so I kind of like that one more, so I ordered it and I'm waiting for it to come in. It's so weird, as I was kind of looking at what my books are about, there's like the theme of spooky books is a family moving back to an old house where bad things used to happen, and revenge. I don't know what the deal is, but The Last House on Needless Street is about a little girl, I think, that went missing, and she was never found, and then there's like this spooky house, and people live next door, and like a recluse lives in this house. Maybe not like a recluse, but he kind of just keeps to himself, and he's maybe a little different. It's about a story of a serial killer, a stolen child, revenge, and death. You had me hooked right there. So I'm looking forward to that one coming in. And then the next book I don't have because it's releasing at the end of September, and it's like not really a spooky read, but it totally fits. And this is one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and it's the second book to what was the first book called?
A Deadly Education?
A Deadly Education, yeah, by Naomi Novik, and it's the Scholomance #2, The Last Graduate. So in the first book was the main character that I could stand behind. She was a really strong sorceress who kind of just was trying to fly under the radar because everyone disliked her, and she had this hidden power that no one really knew of, and it's just her being like really strong despite her circumstances, which is she's in a school that is trying to kill you constantly. So the second book is the last year of her being in this school, and when you are about to graduate, you have this huge test where you battle like all of the monsters that have kind of accumulated over the year, and you try to get through them, and everyone usually dies. Not many people live. If this series went on forever, I would be happy. It's so good. I highly recommend it, and so that one I'll be picking up the day it releases.
I'll start with a book that I'm actually currently reading. I actually put it down for a little bit because there was like another book that I had to finish and then return to the library, and I've noticed that a lot of the things I'm reading these days is solely based on how fast I have to return them to the library. So I put this down, but this was recommended to me from a commenter. They recommended that I read The Secret History by Donna Tartt because I loved the dark academia vibes of The Maidens, but The Maidens didn't really go there. Like, it had the vibe, but I don't know, it just didn't fully like thrust you into that atmosphere totally, and just I wanted it to go crazy into like school conspiracies and creepy societies.
Look at my head, look like I have a little pumpkin hat. I can't get over it. Halloween night. Oh, I love Halloween night. My daughter composed that song when she was like 3 or 4.
A smash hit.
Okay, sorry, go on.
The commenter told me that if I liked those elements of that book, then I should check this one out. I'm not that far into it, and I can already tell that this one is going there. Like, it's really focused on the one's actually more about, I think, a murder or something.
Okay.
Thank you to the commenter. Thank you for suggesting it. I'm reading it now. So far, I'm really liking it.
You know Shelby. What can we say?
My next one is, okay, so last Spooktober, I read The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson and loved it. It landed on my top books that I had read the year, and that's probably one of my favorite books I've ever read. Well, she has another book. Yes. Everybody recommended We Have Always Lived in the Castle for people who like wanted to read something atmospheric and spooky. Well, I read about it and I was like, I'm sold. Who is this by? Shirley Jackson. Oh my gosh. So essentially, the snippet that I read was, it's an upsetting novel about a perverse, isolated, and possibly murderous family and the struggle that ensues when a cousin arrives at their estate.
They had you at upsetting, didn't they?
It's not a haunted castle. I was going to try to avoid psychological thrillers as much as I could because I just wanted something more like scary and paranormal.
Yes.
I believe this one is psychological. I don't think it's a haunted castle, but Hill House was only kind of a haunted thing. It was all more psychological, and it was done so well that I allowed it.
And it seems like that's going to be atmospheric, you know?
And that's what's really going to sell it for me.
Spoiler alert, there's a movie. They did that movie. They made a movie into it.
We Have Always Lived in the Castle?
Yes. It's on Netflix. I've seen it. I watched it.
Did you like it?
I believe it went, like, just by the book.
Ooh.
So I think you're going to like it, and you definitely can watch the movie. So that's a good for spooky movie season too, you know? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next book I have is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, I had seen this, and the weird thing with horror, I don't know if you've noticed it, but there's like, no matter what book it is, it's very rare to find a well-loved book. Like, a lot of people will hate it, a lot of people will love it. I guess it's because when it comes to horror, there's really so many subgenres of horror. And a lot of people don't, like, I don't really like dark academia. I don't really, well, even though The Last Graduate is kind of like a dark school, but it's like a magic school. It's different. But anyway, so I had seen like bad reviews about this. I tend to like really believe the bad. I'm like pessimistic. So I was like, I really want to read it, but some people don't like it, and feel that cover. Holy cow. Oh, this is a beautiful paperback, first of all. Anyway, so I ended up reading one of his final girl novel, and I loved it, and it was so weird, and it was so cool, and I was like, well, I have to read this, because it's like a book that's not written strange, and I absolutely love the other one. I was like, no, this is someone who I think I'm a really big fan of now. And it's so funny because on the back it says the Jordan Peele of horror literature, which Jordan Peele is like the new M. Night Shyamalan, if not better, you know, because M. Night is, well, I love him. That's a different story. So this is following 4 American Indian men after a disturbing event from their youth, and then they have to face that now that they're grown. And I want to say, I don't, you know, it's paperback, so I don't, wait, where's the little, there should be a little thing back here. Like, I want to say, it was kind of like own voices, because whether he's lived on a reservation or something, but like he knew his little backstory involved. So I really appreciated that as well. So I'm just really looking, this is one I think I'm going to start my spooky season off with, because I really want to see, like, am I obsessed with him? Do I love him? Or, you know, so I'm so excited for that one.
My next book, this thing got me through Spooktober. This book has 3 Stephen King books in it. 3, surprisingly.
And like back in the day, this was like the
Donica's.
90s. This was probably like $4.99 at the Scholastic Book Fair. You know how books were all like super cheap.
If y'all want to go watch, I don't know why y'all would, because it's like an old TBR. We've already read the books. But I go through a story about how this was Donica's book. Like, this was Donica's book growing up. I found it at our old house. I'm retelling the entire story. Anyways, the point is, this is such an awesome find. Last Spooktober, I read Salem's Lot. That was another top book of all time.
Amazing.
Loved it. I'm going to go for The Shining. And I was kind of nervous because I love Salem's Lot so much. And I was like, I wonder which one is like the better book. Like, I wonder which is the one that people like the most. Some people say The Shining is the best Stephen King book ever. So I'm very excited. So essentially, I haven't seen the movie. I actually don't know anything about it. Somehow I've avoided Shining content my whole life because I don't know what it's about. So a man moves into a hotel with his family.
Oh my gosh, I love you describing The Shining to everyone.
Do they know? I don't know what The Shining. Do you know what The Shining is about?
Oh gosh.
Well, for those of you who are like me and have been under a Stephen King bump repellent rock your whole life, a man moves into this hotel. It's very secluded, it's very remote. He moves there with his family. It's for like a winter caretaker job, and he's there because he wants to battle his alcoholism and anger issues, but also he wants to continue writing this play. But while he's there in all this isolation, it begins to get eerie and strange things start happening, and the only other person who notices them is his gifted 5-year-old son. Is that right?
Incredible. Amazing book, amazing movie. I love the OG one. I love anything that has to do with The Shining. I feel like that's just something I'll never get tired of watching or anything. My favorite I almost said it. My favorite Stephen King novel that I always think about, I should read it now. I read this when I was too young, but it's Needful Things. And it's just one, because I'm someone who I love when disturbing things happen. I love like just icky situations and just and Needful Things it takes it there. I love it. It's about kind of almost like I want to say a shopkeeper moves into town, and I almost want to say he's like an evil genie almost, because when they go in, people ask for things and he gives them what they want, but it comes with a very unusual price, or bad things happen to them on this item that they've asked for. So
That's cool.
I always think about that when I think about him, so I think like that's clearly the one that sticks out, but as I got older, I stopped being able to read him because some things he does do are just make me too uncomfortable that I'm like, okay, so my next one, this is kind of one of the ones that I'll throw in when things are getting a little too spooky, and this is Good Girl, Bad Blood. It's book number 2 to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Shirley Jackson. This was one of my favorite main characters, favorite books of last year, and we're just following Pippa as she goes on to the next part of her journey when it comes to what happened in the first book. She's trying to get to the bottom of a murder that happened, and she believes that they've got the wrong person, and she's trying to get to the bottom of what really happened. And I just thought it was done so well. The main character was so smart. She didn't have to be dumbed down for our benefit. She was just a really smart character, and the story worked so well. So I know this one has just as high of ratings, so I'm super excited for this one as well. That's me at the end of like every
I know. So my next one, I won't talk in too much detail about. It just seems like a fun book. It's called The Elementals by Michael McDowell. So the premise is there's 3 Victorian houses at the Alabama coast, and 2 of them, they're like summer houses. So 2 of them are still in use, and the other one is kind of vacant. And it's filling up slowly with sand, so like no one can use it. And I quote, "One is filling with sand and empty besides a vicious horror." So 2 families are visiting these homes at this little resort or whatever, but they won't be alone. That's my next one. Is
that a description of me at night when I've had nothing to eat all day but iced coffee and hot Cheetos?
Empty except for a vicious horror.
So my next one, first of all, this is like my favorite cover of the year probably, but it's called Eat Your Heart Out by Kelly DeVos. But the premise is our main character is overweight. I mean, it says right here, Vivian Ellen Shaw is fat, but she knows she doesn't need to lose weight. So we do have a little bit of representation from a bigger girl who's perfectly beautiful as she is. Unfortunately, I think her parents are sending her off to a weight loss camp against her will. But as she gets there, guess what? A zombie outbreak happens, and it looks like she's like, now who do you want on your team, huh? I'll take you, Vivian, over anyone. So this is going to be a really fun, interesting read. I have not read anything about it, so I don't know if this is good, bad, or otherwise, but you can't say it doesn't look like it's going to be epic.
Okay, so my next one is a true classic, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. So this one, I have not seen the movie Sleepy Hollow. I don't know anything about Sleepy Hollow. So again, I might be explaining something that you all already know. So the outsider that's coming in is a gullible and easily frightened school teacher called what?
Is it called Donica?
Ichabod Crane. So this guy gets so scared of like the stories that his little school children are telling him about like ghosts and stuff that he has to sing in the woods on the way home. Like that's how scared he gets. Well, one night he sees something and is never seen again. So what happened to Ichabod Crane? I don't know. I'll find out. I mean, that was in the synopsis. I don't think I'm spoiling anything. How would I have known that without reading it?
Okay, so the next book I'm going to read is, and this is a big mama, so this one is, let me see how many pages.
That one's pretty too.
This is almost 500 pages, so we're going to have to take some time on this one, but look at this spooky book, and the cover is all white. Are you kidding me?
It's actually really, it's like way prettier than it shows on camera.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So this is called The Book of Accents by Chuck Wendig. And this one goes along the lines of a spooky house. When this man was younger, he lived in this house and like really weird, traumatic things would happen. For some reason now he's an older gentleman and he's married with a son and he moves back. I don't know if it's financial strain or something, but he returns back to his childhood home and bad things start happening. I'm super excited. I don't know why it's called The Book of Accidents.
A new masterpiece of literary horror. I want to read this.
I already told Shelby that any book she sees here, I will pass it along. I will pass it along quicker than you can say, may I read
pass that book.
So it just says like what happened long ago is happening again and it is happening to Oliver. So that just seems like super, like, am I going to get mad because apparently when he was young, something happened to him and now he brought his poor son there and he's getting, oh my gosh. So I'm super excited. Oh, I just keep saying that. But yeah, that looks like a really fun read.
So my next one is another classic. I think this one was written in the 80s. And it's called Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. Have you ever watched it or read it or what?
I know of it and I love, like, people will get that tattooed on them. We actually have our cousin's cousin has like Something Wicked This Way Comes like tattooed on him.
What?
It's so cool. I just love that.
You'd be pleased to know that I'm reading this. Well, I think it's also a Shakespeare quote.
Oh, okay, yes. Then I hope he's read
Shakespeare. Or maybe he's a Ray Bradbury fan. I don't know. Essentially, an evil carnival comes to town every now and then. I couldn't figure out the time span, but every now and then an evil carnival comes. What? And there's like this glockenspiel or something. It was this weird instrument I'd never heard of. Oh, or maybe it's a type of person. A calliope?
What is that?
It plays and like draws people in,
yes, I think it is
and
an
like
instrument.
Terrible things happen. It's like a true evil carnival. Well, we're following two young best friends. They're like 13 to 14, so perfect coming of age. And it's like good versus evil. It's set near Halloween. It just sounds like so much fun. I mean, what more would you want from a Halloween
I might
book?
want to read that if I can squeeze it in because that sounds really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna finish with my last non-middle grade because my last three will be all middle grade. So this is my last adult book I'm gonna read. Well,
I'm gonna pipe in. Yeah, I'll pipe in because this is one of my.
We're both gonna read it. So Shelby, you do this more justice than I could.
Oh no.
But we read The Lost Village. We did a book talk on it, and that one was okay. I thought it was great. I love the garage. I love B horror movies. Like, I love that, and it gave me that feel, and I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but I really appreciated it. This looks like this is going to be the version that's, it's just similar. I don't know how similar, but it seems like this is going to be the one that, like, goes there, that people that hated The Lost Village might be like, oh, this is the motion picture version, you know? So, go ahead and explain to everyone what's...
Okay. So essentially, this is an outsider's coming in story. Again, classic. So a dad.
Where's the outsider's coming out story?
That was such a good point. So it's a daughter and a dad coming into this little town, and this town is just plagued with disaster. Like, there were martyrs burned in this town. There was a pastor who committed suicide. Girls have gone missing. And there's a new pastor in town, and he's there with his daughter, and they know something's not right with this town. Why did I feel like it was culty?
Yeah, it's just, and they're in a town rife with conspiracies and secrets. The more that Jack and his daughter Flo explore the town, the more weird things begin to happen. So
yeah. It's almost like they're digging into this town's underbelly, and it's just getting uglier and uglier.
And it's one of those things where, you know, like, you're the two, like you said, outsiders digging. Like, can you, like, how creepy is it to think of you are now in this town where everyone has a secret, and now you're there? Like, ew, it's just creepy to think about, you know? But we are going to do a book talk. This is going to be our October book talk. So
excited.
You'll be hearing more about that one for sure. hopefully in better detail.
So my next one is actually a book that I picked up, and it's like a Victorian novel, I think, or it's either Victorian or it's like inspired to be Victorian, so it's supposed to have like convoluted writing that is like kind of hard to understand, and it's for people who enjoy doing that. Well, I picked this up and I started reading it, and I literally put it immediately down, and I was like, this is for future Shelby to deal with. Oh, thank you, I forgot that I had it. The Woman in White.
It's like one of those like optical illusions. So like, put your snap code in here and it'll change.
So The Woman in White, I thought it was going to be a ghost story when I picked it up from Half Price Books all those months ago, but I don't think it is. It's more of like an asylum type story. Mm-hmm. So this man is walking down the street one day when a woman taps him on the shoulder, and he turns around, and I think it's at nighttime, and she's like, do you know directions to something? And he's like, that way. But like before he can really properly help her, she gets like whisked away in a carriage. And then these men start running up behind him, and they're like, that lady just escaped from an asylum.
I'm sorry, that's funny.
So he can't stop thinking about it and how he wishes that he could have helped her more. So where he's heading to is that he became the art teacher for these two lovely sisters. And of course he falls in love with one of them, but then there's like men trying to harass them somehow. I don't know how, but somehow it's all tied up as well with The Woman in White. So how did this all link together? We will find out in The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. This one, I think just because it has the word house in it, I feel like you might like it, because I feel like you've read books with house in them before. It's called Slade House by David Mitchell. Ooh. So every 9 years on the last day of October, someone finds Slade House. It like reveals itself to someone.
Okay, I'm here for it.
So a stranger will greet you by name, invite you in, and once you're in, you can't leave. And so I wrote, that's kind of like the Hotel California. So this novel jumps decade.
You go while I sing in the background.
Talk about atmospheric. So this novel is it jumps decade by decade. And I'm assuming what it's doing is telling you the stories of every person per decade who's found Slade House and the horrors that have come to them.
That is incredible. I gotta look into that one. Before Shelby wraps it up, I'm just gonna breeze through the middle grade, the ones I'm using to break up my spookiness when I need it. So I have Ghosts of Green Glass House.
Beautiful. And
I know, I love when books like are paperback, but they're still like you're getting your money's worth, And this is the sequel to Green Glass House, and Green Glass House was it around Christmas time? I don't know. There's bells and stuff right here, so I don't know if this one is also centered around Christmas, but there's no snow. Anyway, so this is a sequel to Green Glass House. I read that one last year. It was one of my mid-month middle grade book talks, so I have a whole talk on that. It had a really good little twist at the end, mystery, kind of going along the line of like our book talk we just did about the inheritance games, of a kind of being in a house setting and everything kind of happening in that house, trying to solve mysteries while remaining in a house. I don't know. It was just really fun, and kind of along the same lines. We have our main character Milo. There's more guests in this house spending time there, more old people we've seen before and new people, and he's still trying to solve mysteries about his past, present, and yeah, I'm super excited. Looking forward to this one. This is a little chunky too, about 500 pages. Then this one, Amari and the Knight Brothers. Wow, I've seen so many rave reviews about this one for middle grade, and this is going to be my book talk for October, mid-month middle grade. So this one, I really don't know a whole lot about. Basically, Amari Peters, her brother Quentin went missing, and she's never stopped believing that he was alive. She finds a ticking briefcase in his closet containing a nomination for a summer tryout at the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs. So apparently her brother may have been sucked up into the underworld of the supernatural, and she's going to go in and find him. I don't know what is going to happen, but absolutely beautiful cover, beautiful young girl, and I'm looking forward to that one. And then the last one is
amazing.
I know, it's a graphic novel by Roald Dahl. Am I saying that right? And it's The Witches, but the graphic novel. Look at the illustrations. This is the cartoons that I will still watch. If they're illustrated like that, I will sit down with my kids and watch that. It looks like by Penelope Bagu is the illustrator. And yeah, I used to read him so much when I was younger. I mean, I would check out all of his books, Matilda, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but they're not like books that really stick out to me, so I could really go back and reread them and have a good time. But this is just the graphic novel of The Witches, which I don't know if I ever read this one, but hey, now's a good time to start with any in the graphic novel version. It'll be a nice quick read. I might read this twice, honestly, you know, just anytime I'm feeling low.
I will end on a light note as well. This was one of my biggest reading regrets of last year, is that I did not have enough time last October to read The Boston Scream Murder. I believe it's called A Detective Donut Mystery.
You've got to read this one this year. You've got to make time.
I almost want to say go back. I described this already last year, but really, really quickly. This donut, I guess a bakery shop owner has a special order of donuts for this man, and he's going to have a little birthday party for him, and he's going to have it at the place where I believe his wife mysteriously drowned, actually. But he's having his birthday party there. Well, when the baker shows up with the donuts, she only finds his corpse. And like anybody who could have killed him has run away. Oh, so it's up to, I think it's up to Emily, to the baker, to figure out what happens next. But I heard from a few people that this is great to read around Halloween time. It's a nice light read. It has a bunch of like Halloween vibes to it. And it's a nice little mystery. So I figured that this would be nice and light. And I was really looking forward to this last year, and I just didn't get around to it. Charming, yummy donut recipes round a whodunit. Sure to please cozy fans.
Ooh. What was cozy horror? I had never heard that before.
Is that a term?
I just saw someone use it online. They were like, oh, if you like cozy horror. And I was like, I don't. But it was describing a book that I didn't like, because I was like, yeah, it's like I didn't, well, if you know you're going into it and this is probably going to be cozy horror, you're going to love it. But if you go into it thinking it's like
going to be like a slasher.
I mean, look at this. This is not giving you any type of, it tells you exactly what you're getting into by the cover. It's not leading you astray at all. But that is everything from me. I'm gonna ask one question before we go. What movie do you think of when you think of Halloween? Whether that's childhood, adults, what movie just to you you're like, I'm gonna watch this Halloween?
For me, I was a huge Halloween Town person.
Yes, you were.
That was my childhood. I loved Halloween Town. I looked forward to it every year.
Yeah, I would never sit with you because I'm like, I don't like this movie. It probably is it really is a good movie. I just was at that age.
It came out at a perfect time where every year when the new one would come out, I was excited. Oh. And then when I was at the right age, Halloween Town High came out. And I wasn't too old to be watching stuff like that, so it was still perfect for me. So I was able to have that through my whole childhood. And then there's this other one, and it is this, I can't even remember the name. It's called Don't Think About It by R.L. Stein. It's like a Nickelodeon adaptation of the movie, and I think it only played for 1 year. And Emily Osment starred in it, and I think about that movie all the time, surprisingly, and I only watched it once, but
it really stuck with you?
Yeah.
I know everyone says Hocus Pocus, and I had not seen that movie until last year. Last year, in my 30s, I was the first time I ever saw it, and I was like, okay, I can see why everyone gets behind this, and it's very culty in the term, in the knickknacks you can buy, and the Sanderson sisters, and I can totally see it. And this year I'm definitely going to make time because I just think it's a great tradition to have. But the movie that sticks with me, I'm going to look it up because yes, it's called The Halloween Tree.
No way.
Yes, I'm going to put it right here.
How old is it? Because that's another book that I thought of reading.
It was based on a book by Ray Bradbury. Did you know that? And it actually does not have the best reviews. Once again, we just talked about how horror that happens. But I did not know that. I did not know that until this year when I just saw it on a list of Halloween reads for kids or something. I was like, that's the movie I think about when I think of Halloween, because it would come on every year. It was released in 1996. No, originally in 1993. And it would play every year probably into the late 90s. So that's my whole childhood. And I just remember it being so good. Essentially, their friend is dying. He dies or something, and they have to go, his friends have to go catch his spirit. and they go across the whole world because they're like with this man that's helping them go get it. So they go to like Mexico, and it's like Dia de los Muertos happening, and they get these like skull candies, and it kind of goes through different cultures and like things people do at Halloween. I don't know, kind of good. And I just always think about that. That was like my childhood. Everyone was watching Hocus Pocus, and my parents were making me watch the Halloween Tree. They weren't making me. That's what I was drawn to, I'm sure. But that's all. That's it.
We're gonna have a fun Tober and September.
Spooky reads for the spooky times.
Yes.
Okay. Look at my bangs. As my mental state's deteriorating, my bangs just open up more. All right, guys, please let us know what you're reading this Spooktober or this fall season. We are always looking for suggestions. Clearly, Shelby has got her suggestions. She's just... What? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. I cannot wait to hear what you are reading this spooky season.
What is your movie that you watched when you were... What's the movie that you think of when you think of Halloween?
Mm-hmm. And I'll just sign off with the 2 things I'm looking forward to. But this is in September. I don't know in October what's coming. But Night Books is a middle grade book that I picked up for my son, and he loved it. I read part of it. I read it's basically creepy stories within a story, and they made it into a movie for Netflix.
What?
So that's super cool. A really cool movie to watch with your little ones. I'm pretty sure it should be okay. Like, it's a middle grade book, so it is for like the family. And then the person that either directed or had something to do, written or directed, with The Haunting of Hill House is releasing a new little series or something on the 24th of September. I can't wait to read that. Anyone that had anything to do with the Hill House, I'm like, okay, sign me up, because have you ever watched that? Mm-hmm. Shelby, you've got to. You're scared.
I'm not a big movie or show person.
Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in our next video. Y'all take care. Bye.